Hello, today we're going to continue with Hearthfire. Inside of the cabin was a relief as I trudged my way back inside. Sinking into our office, I followed the big bear saddle. It must have been good insulation despite the fire having been burnt out before we left. It was still considerably warmer than the chilly outside. Talbot was already back to work building a new fire, tossing a few logs into the hearth. I could barely see what he was doing through his large body, but the telltale sound of a match being struck made my ears perk. The fire roared back to life, an orange glow enveloping the hearth and the surrounding area. I let out a sigh of relief as the warmth washed over me, my legs automatically carrying me over towards the source. The bear looked over his shoulder, regarding me with those side-twin colored eyes. For a weirdly captivating stare, the expression was blank, and his eyes were full of. I'm not really sure what, so passing. Either way, they were kind of pretty to look at. My face flushed, gaze snapping in ways I realized the errant thought I just had. God, seriously, am I that starved that I'm going to cling to the guy that saved me? I mean, sure, he's kind of attractive, but realizing that Tom Wack was gone broke me out of my thoughts, causing me to blink a few times as I looked around. In the other end of the room, I was sucking off his coat, tossing it outside. Oh no. A strange cough came out of me as I turned to avoid looking at him, instead focusing on the crackling fire he had made. The last thing I wanted was to have those ideas simulated. There was no doubt that I was in a sorry state. Starved for attention, attachment issues, and I was lost in the middle of nowhere with this bear being my only life raft. I really shouldn't start perving on the guy who saved me. There's gotta be some sort of conflict of interest with that, right? He's the guy who went out of his way to make sure I didn't die in the snow. It would be weird if I started identifying him. I could feel myself going uneasy, wrestling with my mind, trying to suppress the errant thoughts that were floating around. The heat wafting around me was starting to shift from pleasantly fuzzy to uncomfortable fast. I could already feel the sweat building up around the collar of my shirt. My panicked nose jumped, smelling the air around me. My gaze shifted to Tomback, watching as he seemed too busy himself with something in the nearby kitchen. Hey, Tomback. The bear's ears swiveled, his head looping over his shoulder as he regarded me with faint interest. Do you have a sour or something? I could really use one. He stared at me for a while, to the point where things started to grow awkward. Maybe he didn't have a sour. Just as I was about to open my mouth and ask the question again, he turned, heading towards the back door. Hey, was it something I said? I couldn't really pair this guy or his behavior. Trotting quickly through the cabin, I managed to zip out the same door, quietly crunching through the snow. What? Where did he go? How the heck did he move so fast with all that size? I could hear noise from around the back of the cabin, the sound of lumber being moved around and piled together. A stone patio with a wooden roof overhanging it made up most of the back of the cabin. Nearly bent completely over was Tomrat, the polar bear, stuffing wood into a large furnace. I was attached to what looked like a fairly large stone tub. The bear was throwing in a few logs before striking them with a massive blaze, quickly forming plumes of smoke puffing out of the stack above. Moving over to a metal pump nearby, Thomas' large arms working a fairly large lever up or down. Out of a spigot poured a fresh stream of water. The stuff poured into the open basin of the tub. Watching the bear move was rather hypnotic, his motions calculated and powerful, There was no way I could do this. I'd be worn out before the water even reached halfway. The heat from the furnace transferred into the tub, the water already starting to simply steam and rough around. It goes to say considering how nippy it is outside. Strange that he had a bath outside, or was it a hot tub? The water had finished filling, sloshing around near the edge and invitingly, a good amount of steam flowing up from the liquid and into the air. Above was a square cut out in the ceiling, probably to allow the steam to escape rather than cloud the nearby vicinity. This entire scenario was so divorced from my usual norm, I couldn't help but stare at it in awe. A log-fired furnace, a hand pump for water, even a purely stone tub which looked like it was made by the bear himself was also rustic. Yet it worked. The big bear himself seemed to tie it all together. Go ahead. I blinked, my attention being drawn to Tomwhack, the bear looking at me expectantly. Oh, sorry, it's just... I've never seen a tub like this before. I'm not surprised. Is he starting this conversation with me? Pouncing on the opportunity, I quickly kept the ball rolling. I mean, I haven't even had a bath in years, so... His brows arched, giving me a critical stare. I felt the sudden urge to punch myself in the face. I mean, I've only had showers. I bathe. I could feel my face growing hot as I shifted awkwardly on my seat. Tomwhack didn't seem to be particularly impressed. His passive gaze drilling holes into me, whether he meant it or not. The blood crept up my cheeks and into my ears as I tried to look anywhere other than at those orange orbs. I'll be back with soap. And just like that, Tomwhack ambled around the corner and out of sight, leaving me alone with the bubbling bath. The steam wafted through the air, licking at me. It was comfortable, just like the fire inside, if not a fair bit more human. The air around the stone patio was steadily rising as the heat proliferated through the air, making it a little more pleasant to suck my clothes off. Still, it didn't change the fact that I was outside the freezing Yukon mountains. Deciding to bite the bullet, I managed to take my jacket off, plopping it over a wooden bench that sat alongside the tub. Jeans went off quick enough as well, sucking my shoes aside until I was just in my underwear. Another shiver went down my spine, the air really bothering me now. On the south side, I managed to wriggle out of my underwear as well, slithering it down my legs and into the pile with the rest of my clothes. I always hated getting naked out in the open like this. I was never really comfortable with my average outer body being on display. Sighing softly, I moved to the edge of the tub, hopping onto the edge. The stone was nice, polished, smooth with no jagged edges. My tail dunked into the warm water, the heat instantly traveling up it and into me. I couldn't help but groan, my lips parted as my eyes rolled shut. Pulling my legs up, I managed to twist myself into the tub, dipping them in first. I let out a soft gasp, taking a few short breaths as I lowered myself in. Despite dipping my tail in first, it didn't stop the temperature shock from hitting my brow. Gingerly lowering myself down, I managed to dip all the way down to my chest, the water simply steaming around me. The feeling was divine. Sweet and other muck that had accumulated in my fur was coming right off, bleeding away from me. I couldn't help but let a small moan slip past my lips, leading to press my back against the toasty contours of the stone tub. I could get used to this. I wasn't lying when I told Tomwhack that I hadn't had a bath in forever. It didn't have that. My dorm didn't have one. The best I could ask for is a soak at a hot tub in the athletics building. Which of course I never did thanks to my crippling anxiety of being naked in front of considerably more buff dudes than my body issues. All in all, I'm fairly average. Not fat, but not skinny either. Guess it helped that I didn't really eat a whole lot, still riding off of that teenage metabolism. Too bad it wouldn't last forever. Guess there weren't a lot of things that were long-lasting in my life. That familiar tightness in my chest started to pull as I found my arms hugging me tight. I could feel my stomach clenching, old thoughts resurfacing. You picked up, idiot. The words muttered from my lips as I squeezed my eyes shut. Taking a breath, I lowered myself down, submerging into the warm water to clear my mind. The steamy liquid enveloped me, muffling the outside world, blanketing me with a warmth as I dove beneath the surface. I wasn't able to get very far under the water, but it was enough. Enough to put me in a world of my own. My tail curled around my legs as I tucked myself into a ball at the bottom. How many minutes have gone by already? 1, 3, I was losing count. My lungs didn't burn yet, so I wasn't running out of oxygen. That's good, right? Even though the heat was getting a little uncomfortable, I kind of wish I could just stay down here forever. A pair of hands dove through the water above me. I could feel them gripping roughly around me, tugging my fur in all the wrong ways as I was suddenly whipped from the bottom of the tub. All the air that I was holding came bubbling out of me in an instant. I wasn't just pulled from the bottom of the tub, I was yanked up into the air as well. The water slossed off of me as I was dangled like a cat suspended in the air. I was about to let a torrent of expletives rip until I saw who was holding me up in the air. Tarmac. His face was a cross between concern and fury and departed from his bloody stoic look. What are you doing? The tone booming from the bear completely caught me off guard. My small ears folded back. My jaw went up and down as I tried to fumble some sort of explanation, my brain too frazzled from seeing over emotion playing across his face for the first time. I'm an author. That's all I could manage to squeak out, my throat constricting. His expression softens a bit as he regards me, his grip growing a little looser, allowing me a tiny bit of freedom of movement. I am aware. We can hold our breath. Massive mutter, barely getting out my sentence as I dangled around the tip of my tail, grazing the water below. My eyes dipped lower, noticing that something was decidedly off. There was more white fur than what I was used to seeing. A lot more. He was naked, completely naked. I could feel my head about to transform into a whistling teapot with how hot it was getting. I only caught a brief glimpse of it, but the size he was packing downstairs was just as large as the rest of him. Chris. His rolling voice snapped me out of it, causing me to blink as I stared at him. His expression had shifted from exasperation to confusion, his dense, dark brow arching. Naked. The bear stared at me as if I was an alien. I am, yes. Can his brow arched higher. Can you put me down? He complied, gently lowering me back down into the bubbling bath below. I wasn't entirely sure that the warmth was comfortable anymore, already feeling flushed from what I accidentally witnessed. At least it was better than being dangled around in the frigid air, being covered in water and half-boiled didn't help matters. The only problem with this was that I was now firmly eye level with his crotch. Without hesitation, he lifted up one leg and then the other, The water level rose dangerously high, sloshing around, even displacing me as I nearly went sliding. I scrambled to the other end of the tub, mildly panicking at the fact that Tarmac was taking up a good half of the space. Our thighs grazed together, something that made me almost want to bolt straight out of the water into the cold. Almost. He didn't seem perturbed by it at all, his expression having returned to that same unflappable state that I first saw it in. His arms glued onto the sides of the tub, the bear fully lazing back into it, his eyes rolling shut. We stayed like this together for a long time. Neither one of us saying anything as the water bubbled quietly around us. I don't want to waste water. It was as if he was answering my unsaid question, not even bothering to open his eyes as he spoke. The whole thing was surreal, but I guess it kind of made sense. Water and food were probably a lot more precious resources out here in the middle of nowhere, especially considering how far he lives from that village. It's good, I think the doctor called it. The minutes ticked on, the water continuing to swim around us. I couldn't even tell if the bear was asleep, his eyes shut, his breathing steady. Now that I managed to calm down a bit, I actually managed to get a good look at him for the first time. He was just as brawny as he looked suggested. He was just as brawny as his look suggested, and only now did I realize that his jacket was less padding and more him. I tried it as it all was. It felt kind of wrong to be ogling the guy I was sharing a tub with. My fingers squeezed into my forearm, nails sharply digging in as I tried to look away from the large bear. So, I managed to rumble, trying to break my own train of thought. He didn't even bother to open his eyes, still laying back, breathing. Tarwak? His voice a thrumming rumble. His voice a thrumming rumble, one that separately shook the... My fingers squeezed into my forearm, nails sharply digging in as I tried to look away from the large bear. So, I managed to mumble, trying to break my own train of thought. He didn't even bother to open his eyes, still laying back, breathing. Tarwak? His voice a thrumming rumble, one that suddenly shook through me, sending a tingle up my fur. Sorry about scaring you. His round ear swiveled in my direction, aiming directly at me. At least he was somewhat interested in what I had to say. Being underwater is pretty soothing for Arthur, so, God, I'm terrible at this. I'm so used to letting everyone else talk that it's hard to just make up a conversation. It doesn't help that he barely talks back. How am I supposed to work with blank looks and grunts? Yeah, I mean, we can hold our breath for minutes. I used to like to go to the deep end of the pool and just sit for a while. My hands folded together under the water, thumbs spinning together as I reminisced. It was always relaxing. Nobody would bother you, and it was quiet. I had good going on in my life, so I liked those moments where I was alone. Looking up outside that he had opened his eye, that side-twin orb regarding me curiously. Guess I got his attention. I guess you know what that's like, right? No response, but I decided to continue anyway. You, live out here, far away from the rest of the village? He nodded slowly, still watching me intently as the water steamed and erupted around us, forming a light haze. It was a gentle scene, and I was thankful at least that the awkwardness between us had finally melted away. So, I brought my hand out of the water, waving it, and let a few drops falling from the tips of my fingers. Thank you for saving me. A hint of a smile pulled at the corners of his muzzle as he regarded me, giving a slow nod. It was a simple gesture, yet it wasn't dismissive. I could sense the deeper meaning behind it, especially the way he was looking at me. A rub at my shoulder, leaning back against the tub. It was starting to get a little late, the sun beginning to set off in the distance. You're welcome. I could feel a small smile pulling at the corners of my muzzle as I gave a short nod in return. So, what's it like living out here? You don't seem to have electricity. Generator. Huh? Have a generator I use. I nodded eagerly, gesturing for him to continue, trying to pry as much conversation as I could out of this bear. Maybe I can get him to open up. I don't know why I'm trying so hard, but I can tell there's something underneath that silent exterior. Maybe it's because he saved me and I want to try to return the favor somehow. I don't know. It's for the sour. Oh, you have a sour too? He rumbled, nodding slowly in the fur dryer. What a relief. At least I won't have to go to bed feeling damp. Letting out a soft, relieved sigh, I sank further back, allowing the waters to slosh around over my shoulders and up to my neck again. I could feel my legs bumping slightly against Tom White's knees, grazing, sins brushing together. Although I didn't really feel the urge to pull away anymore. Maybe it's because the water was so relaxing, and maybe I feel a little more comfortable around him now. He doesn't seem like a bad guy, just hermited. I cracked open one of my eyes, looking at the bear. He seemed to be just as relaxed as me, his arms thrown back over the edge of the tub, barrel-like, chest jutting into the air. Hey, Tawak. The bear wobbled in response, keeping his eyes closed. The bear rumbled in response, keeping his eyes closed. You sure don't mind me staying with you here, right? That doesn't say I could stay at his place if it's a problem. He peeked his gaze open once more, those amber eyes watching me. I don't want to be a burden or anything. Slowly he gave his head a dismissive shake. Plenty of food supplies. He muttered as he sank back a little further, his knees spreading. It was surprising how nice he is. I wouldn't really expect this out of a guy who lives alone on the side of a mountain. Honestly, I kinda pictured the idea of wild cannibals or something living out this far away from civilization. Still, no idea where my car is, or if it's even in one piece. Then the doctor told me it would be stupid to try to leave. I guess all the ice and snow on the road was because of the storm. Peering up at the sky, I didn't really see much, just the usual clouds. Tom White didn't seem to be all that bothered. The bear still laying back with his eyes closed. It made me wonder if he was going to stay like this. Maybe I should wake him up. I bit at my lower lip as I thought about it. Reaching out tentatively, I gave his broad chest a gentle prod. The bear let out a snort of a sound, shifting subtly, but otherwise ignoring my poking. Well, okay. Guess I might as well get soaped up and stuff. He was nice enough to bring some shampoo back, so I might as well use it. Lathering up was a bit of a challenge. I can't remember the last time I took a proper bath, not since I was a pup. Good thing he had his eyes closed. I'm not sure I would have had the courage to get out of the water if he was still watching me. Dugging myself back into the water, the soap dispersed off of my body, taking away any accumulated grime along with it. A soft sigh passed through my lips as I gave myself a little shake under the toasty waves. Apparently, Tomback was awake again, the bear busily scrubbing his big body, hiking one of his large arms up over his head as he worked fingers over that large limb. I don't think I'd ever seen anyone that large before, Some of the guys on the campus were big, but none of them had the sheer wall-like build this polar bear had. Feeling the heat starting to grow uncomfortable, I shifted my way out of the tub, sitting over the edge. "Hey, Ton." The bear looked up at me, pausing mid-squeal. "Yes." He still seemed to sap the words out of me, nearly blanking my mind as I struggled to form what I was going to say. "I'm going to get dried off and head back inside. Do you mind if I use the bathroom?" "You may." I gave him a smile, and for a moment I could have sworn I saw one being flashed back at me by the big bear. Getting out of the tub, a full-body shiver traveled through me. Phew, cold. A soft chuckle came from the bear nearly, reminding me that he was still painfully within earshot. Grabbing out the towel, I managed to dry the worst of the dampness off of my body. I could feel my internal temperature rapidly dropping, the frigid cold reasserting itself as if trying to reclaim me. Apparently, it was content on spitting the hot bath, turning the water in my fur against me as it only accelerated the chill. Getting the last of the dampness off of my fur, I managed to snatch up my used clothes under my arm. Looping around the building and getting back into the cabin was faster now that I knew where I was going. A good thing too, I could already feel the chill setting in, my waist around the side of the building and back inside a howling one. The door shut behind me with a soft click, even though it was only a few seconds out in the cold. I felt like it was already becoming an auto pop. Alright, bathroom. There was only one room I hadn't been in yet. Huh. It was a lot nicer than I was expecting. Still had some of the log cabin aesthetic, but everything was, well, spotless. Stone walls with reflective porcelain countertop and glass wall shower greeted me. Unlike the rest of the cabin, it seemed to have a few more amenities, namely an outlet. Attached to it was a fairly hefty-looking fur dryer, the cord having been wrapped neatly around the handle. The device nestled into the corner of the countertop. My fingers had automatically gone for the light switch, giving it a flick of instinct, nearly causing me to trip on my own feet from the sudden flood of light. Yes, he turned on the generator. Still, it's nice to know he has a shower here. As much as I enjoy a good bath, I wouldn't want to take one every day. Regardless, I gave my clothes a gentle toss off to the side. The hair dryer turned on with a flip of a switch, the thing roaring to life as warm air blew from it. Oh, that's nice. I closed my eyes, allowing the warm air to wash over me. While it wasn't like the full-body dryers back at home, it would suffice. At least it takes the chill away. That's the least I was after. Satisfied that I was no longer soggy, I turned the nozzle onto my outstretched clothes, trying to get out any excess water I might have imparted during my run for the tub. Clicking the dryer off, I gave my clothes a quick once-over. They were getting a little dingy. It didn't help that I had already worn them almost an entire day during my drive. A quick sniff into the back of my shorts made me recoil, though. Yeah, getting musky again. I sighed softly. I really need to go get my stuff. Maybe Tom Wack could take me in the morning. Guess I'll have to see about asking. Finishing my business, I brought the dryer back onto the edge of the countertop. My eyes caught a glimpse of a toothbrush near the sink, my gaze hanging there for a moment. I made my way closer to the countertop, peering at the blue-handled bus. It looked in fairly good condition. If I didn't know better, I'd assume it was freshly unwrapped. Rolling inches away, I found my fingers pulling back away from the glistening plastic. What am I doing? I could feel my face blushing. My hand clenched as it went quickly back to my side, stepping away from the bristly temptation. I don't think I would be a very polite house guest if I used his toothbrush. I tweaked the knob, sent cool water cascading into my hands, followed by me leaning down to stir it up. Finishing up, I turned off the lights and stepped out into the living room. It seemed that Tarmac had finally returned as well. The bear headed into his bedroom for what I figured was the rest of the night, the door clicking shut behind him. Sliding back into the sofa that sat firmly in front of the hearth, my legs swung back and forth as I leaned back into the plush fabric. It was comfortable, really comfortable. Despite the fact I was still lost out in the middle of nowhere, I wasn't nearly as scared as when I first woke up. Tarmac, by weird and almost nonverbal, was a really nice and considerate guy. Plus with Dr. Phillip, he's pretty neat too. Really glad that he didn't charge me for the first visit. Between me destroying my car and the cost to get back to campus, I'd rather not think about how far in debt I'm already in. Here. The only thing that stopped me from launching myself off of the sofa into the fire pit was the heavy blanket that Tarmac had tossed onto me. He had a subtle smoke pull across his muzzle, watching me intently, his arms crossed over his chest. Do you scare easily? I looked out a sharp huff. My cheeks weren't hot. I'm not usually trapped in the mountains with a stranger, no. I snapped, pulling the covers up to my face to hide my blush. His mouth sliding off his face as he watched me. My stomach sank as I realized how silly that might have sounded, shifting a little deeper into the blanket and had been generously given aside. Sorry, I'm a little jumpy. I'm just under a lot of stress right now, even before I crashed out. He nodded slowly, and a standing look crossing over his face. I understand. You do? He nodded again. We have been through trauma. I squeezed it inside my soft blanket, nodding. In time, you will heal. I opened my mouth to respond, but the bear was already heading to his bedroom. The door shut, thudding softly, leaving me with my own thoughts. I soft-sided past my lips as I leaned back into the sofa, snuggling under the blanket. Looking around the room, I gazed at the darkened cabin, the sun having finally set. I guess he had a point. I'll get up. You nodded again. You have been through trauma. I squeezed it inside my soft blanket, nodding. In time, you will heal. I opened my mouth to respond, but the bear was already heading to his bedroom. The door shut, thudding softly, leaving me with my own thoughts. I saw sight past my lips as I leaned back into the sofa, snuggling under the blanket. Looking around the room, I gazed at the darkened cabin, the sun having finally set. I guess he had a point. I'll get out of this, one way or another. So, are you excited? Excited for what? A soft laugh, a simple sound, yet it made my cheeks heat up, the feeling crawling up to my ears. College, bro. You've been talking about it nonstop. I mean, maybe. I'm a bit nervous. Hey, everyone's nervous when they start something new. Even you? Another laugh, a rumbling sound that traveled through the whole truck. Yeah, man, even me. I saw him a doubtful expression, making him flash one of those confident smiles at me. Hey, it's going to be okay. I'll be here for you. Even though he was excited, I could tell he was trying to dial it down for me. Promise? Well, I lied to you. My ears swiveled as I bit at my lower lip. I guess not. At least he was confident enough for the both of us. I was a nervous wreck. Meanwhile, he didn't seem to care at all, practically bouncing in his seat from excitement. Hey, it's not like I'm going anywhere. You better not. He squeezed my hand, having reached out to grab it. It was clumsy, but I could tell he was trying to put thought into it. This isn't like high school. People aren't going to bully you. It brought up old memories for me, unpleasant ones, especially when they were about the guy sitting in the seat next to me. Yeah, don't remind me. Hey, I haven't. He stopped himself as he looked away, focusing on the road ahead, using it as more of a temporary distraction than anything. So it was a little setback then, alright? Times were tough. I didn't know anybody. I just acted on instinct. You were an easy target. I could feel my smile creasing into a frown as I saw him glare. Do you have to bring this up? I'm already nervous. Hey, you're the one who gave me that look. You know I wouldn't hurt you, Chris. It fits automatically without thinking. Anymore. He quickly corrected, squeezing tighter around the steering wheel, tendons flexing. You promise? His hand pulled from mine, only to elbow me in the side, pointing his to it, jabbing me in a way I didn't particularly like. What better way to keep yourself safe than when an ex-bully, right? I couldn't help but roll my eyes again, rubbing over my side to try and stave off the stinging sensation. He could sense the lack of an immediate response, his expression mirroring my own as he looked at me. You gotta be fine. You gotta do fine, man. I'll be with you the whole time. I huffed quietly under my breath, biting at my lower lip as I stared out the window at the passing road, watching trees and light posts pass by. You still didn't promise. He laughed again, a short pop of a sound, a wide grin performing over his muzzle as I watched him in the reflection in the glass of the truck's window. Promise, promise. The lion smiled wider, those fangs poking out from behind his upper lip, so full of confidence and charisma. Even though I wanted to get swept up in the excitement, experience had tempered my expectations. He's gotten excited like this in the past, promised me things before. It's not that he would intentionally lie to me, it's just that he would often promise things he couldn't deliver on, coming up disappointingly short. For now, I guess I just had to trust him, trust in us. It was either that or be on my own. The possibility of being myself sent a shiver of worry up my spine. I'm not sure I could do a fresh start without at least some level of familiarity. Now that I could ask my sister to come down and keep me company. Kind of crazy that she lived so far away, but it's like he could sense my growing anxiety, his hand finding mine, gripping around it. And didn't want to let go, my fingers slipping between his as I squeezed tight. He was always like this, terrible with words, but trying to make up for it with touch. You wouldn't expect it from someone like him, but he always knew how to calm me down. At least when we were in private. The truck rumbled softly as it exited the highway and hit the streets, the cabin swaying gently. Several trees passed by, shadows fitting through the windows as we rolled down the sprawling suburbia. Could already make out the other students walking down the streets, the campus stretching out around us. It was a quaint scene, most of them looking like they were our age, just as confused as where to go as where to be. Not really fitting in. We'll start over together. It'll be different this time. I turned to give him a look. seeing that he was already staring straight back with those deep green eyes. Swear I could get lost in them, like shining emeralds on a sea of pure white, demanding every last drop of my attention. A small smile pulled out the corners of my lips, my grip redoubling around his, thumb slipping over the back of his strong hand. Yeah, I guess. A loud groan passed over my lips as I shifted around separately, slowly regaining the feeling to my extremities. On the interstate, my hand reached out automatically, groping for a set of fingers that weren't there. A sick feeling of disappointment settled in my stomach as I realized what I was doing. Yeah, I must have been thinking funny. The small of my back aching along with the base of my tail. A chill tickled at my exposed feet, making me realize how numb they felt. With a yank, I tugged them up under the heavy blanket along with me as I balled up. Definitely not a morning otter. Even though there wasn't a clock on the wall, I knew that it was a stupidly early hour in the morning. It was like my eyes didn't want to work, having to force a few more blinks to clear away the worst of the crud that wanted to keep them glued close. A soft sigh passed my lips as I rolled onto my back, tucking my legs under them in an attempt to keep them warm. It's been a while since I had a dream like that. Feels kind of like my body's picking at a mental scab, peeling back some of the edges. Like I really need to think about what drove me up here in the first place. The point was to get away from it, to take a break and get out of my life for a while. I couldn't help but sweep my gaze across the living room, though I really didn't plan on getting this far away from my life. Morning light illuminated the wooden walls with a fuzzy hue of pinks and purples, golden orange rays streaming in from the nearby window. The light highlighted dust that flowed through the beams, giving the morning light an ethereal look. To think I actually drove that far, I guess that I wasn't thinking at all. That doctor was right to look at me like I'm crazy. I've barely been out of state, let alone across the country and into the middle of nowhere. What? Just so I could stay with my sister? The pensive feeling was returning, like someone was sticking an ice pick into my lower back. A frustrated grunt, I flipped up, tossing the covers back, opting to wrap them around my shoulders instead. All I wanted was to get away from my life, and the only thing I could think about is going back to it. God, what are my parents going to say when I tell them about the car? There's probably a wreck out there from how bad the crash felt. It's probably completely totaled. It felt like about everything went flying when I went over the edge of the road. An apprehensive shiver went up my spine, followed by a spreading chill, tugging the blanket quickly around myself. It feels surreal, almost like it didn't even happen to me. Maybe it's just my mind trying to block it out, but the sound of a door clicking caught my attention, my head trying to crane around to see over my shoulder. A large mass of white fur was thudding across the wooden floor, heavy footsteps suddenly rattling the sofa I was on. For a moment, I almost forgot who I was looking at. The dream I had pulled me so far back in time that I was left reeling when it came to current events. Conwack. From the brief glimpses I caught, he didn't seem sleepy at all. He looked wide awake, albeit with that usual disinterested expression. Honestly, I had to wonder if it was just a case of resting Bit's face with him. It was really hard to tell. I couldn't stay on his sofa anymore. My back was practically screaming for me to get off of it. Standing up, I allowed the blanket to slide down off of me, a soft shiver going up my spine as the chill air embraced me, sifting through my short fur as if it couldn't get enough of me and my precious body heat. I had to wonder how he stood shirtless in this cold, even with my jeans on and everything. It still felt a little chilly. I could see the sound of a match being struck, followed by a flame being lit. Apparently, he was in the kitchen, the big bear having fiddled with a canister of propane, or what I assumed anyway. It's gotta be hard living out here like this all by himself. Does he get lonely? I think he told me he doesn't, but I couldn't imagine doing it. No electricity, no internet, and I can barely cook for myself anyway. I can't imagine trying to catch dinner that isn't from a delivery driver. At least I could tip them. I don't think throwing money at the local wildlife would make them any more receptive to being eaten. Still, there's a look in those eyes that can tell he isn't happy. How could anyone be actually alone out here? The doctor said something about him being in exile. I stared at his broad back, years slowly turning. Maybe I asked about it later. A grumble rattled through my empty stomach, interrupted the silence, catching my attention, and apparently tongue wax as well. The bear turning his head over his shoulder to look at me. Good morning. Hi. I tried to smile fast, the best one I could muster so early in the morning. It looked like I had interrupted him in the middle of cooking a pair of eggs already been cracked onto a pan. Do you want breakfast? Oh, the offer was surprising. I was expecting him to just make me breakfast like that first thing in the morning. Still, he was looking at me with those amber eyes, waiting on an answer. Yeah. What are you, making? What do you like? Well, he's talking a lot more he's talking a lot more than yesterday. I couldn't help but wonder if maybe he hit his head or something. My fingers automatically wanted to go out to my own head wound, being reminded of their existence. Honestly, I'm not really picky. With an affirming grunt, the big bear turned back to the stove. I found myself walking on my feet as I stared at his broad back. I could feel an overwhelming sense of, I don't know, gratitude. Maybe I just wanted to thank him for taking care of me. Although he dragged me from the snow, took me to a doctor's appointment, and now he's fed me twice. I chewed on my lower lip and thought, watching as his shoulders shifted, flipping bacon over the skillet. After thinking for a moment, I found my feet shuffling forward. He seemed larger up close, warmth radiating off his large body like he's some kind of heater. I could smell those earthy toes wafting from him, his natural scent, I guess. It wasn't bad. Tom grunted as my arms slid around his side, giving him a hug from behind. It was a little awkward, and I wasn't sure how much I should put into it. Deciding to be respectful, I kept my hips back, opting for the awkward reach around with just my arms, even if I felt like it was going to topple over. A soft chuckle came from the bear, the sign turning around, ruffling my hair with a large hand. He nearly engulfed the entirety of my head, large fingers, giving a friendly and not awkward squeeze. Wordlessly, he went back to cooking another pair of eggs into the pan, cells breaking open as the gooey golden liquid dropped right in. The sizzling filled the kitchen, the scent hitting my nose shortly after, making my stomach grumble and complain once more. Guess he wasn't done yet. He went over to what looked like a fridge, larder. It didn't seem to be powered. The door built into the wall. Either way, I could feel the saliva building in my mouth, as I saw what was inside: bacon. The strips hit the skillet next to the pan, crackling to life as the fat fired over the hot surface. I had almost forgotten what it was like to have a home-cooked breakfast. The meals back at the campus cafeteria were awful. Instant eggs, tiny swiveled strips of bacon, even the toast felt medium-sized. The best thing you could ask for was one of those pre-packaged bowls of cereal if you wanted something that wouldn't destroy your insides a few hours later. However, there was still something nibbling at my mind, something important. Wait, He turned slightly, looking over his shoulder at me with a raised brow. Do you have any coffee? It hit me just how much I craved the stuff. It's been called an addict, and I've been called an addict more than once, but I never really thought it was true until going this long without it. No wonder I felt awful. No. No, you don't have a. I do not enjoy coffee. I could feel my heart shattered to pieces. Someone who didn't like coffee, it was blasphemy, utter and complete. Though he is cooking me breakfast, just don't like the taste or it upsets my stomach. I guess I could forgive him, though. We're going to have to do something about coffee. I'm going to last anything longer than a few days. I'm not sure what will happen when the withdrawals hit, but I'd rather not swell up. He finished out with the first batch of food, sliding some fried eggs along, with several strips of bacon onto a plate before gesturing it towards me. Here, eat up. Thanks. He gave me quick directions to the cutlery, pulling out a drawer and grabbing myself a fork. With a glass from the cupboard and a splash of water from the sink, I headed over to the table to sit down. It wasn't exactly a large space enough to fit 3, maybe 4 people. Not that he probably needed. From what I could tell, visitors weren't exactly common. Still, hard to believe he's just by himself out in the wilderness like this. The first bite of egg pushed those darkening thoughts out of my mind. The perfectly cooked, gooey yolk washed over my tongue. It was like a sensual dance of flavor over the stage of my tongue. It took everything within me to keep from letting out a moan. I barely noticed the floor suddenly shaking as Tom Rack made his way over, sitting into the opposite seat. He had a plate as well, digging right in, barely paying me any mind, as if this was just part of his daily routine. The warm food did a lot to stave off the morning chill, the bacon crunching softly as I chewed over it. It cleared my throat, swallowing down a mouthful of bacon. Is it alright if you can take me to my car crash? I'd like to get my stuff. I laughed softly, rubbing the back of my head awkwardly. I'm kind of feeling a little gross with only one set of clothes. Plus, I want to make sure my stuff is okay. After fishing. Huh? I must check the traps. Guess that fish stew had to come from somewhere. Do you mind if I come with? I looked around the rest of the cabin before turning my gaze back to the still eating bear. I'd rather do something than just sit around all day, if you don't mind, that is. He seemed to contemplate, looking at me with those amber eyes as he leaned back. The chair creaked under his weight, and for a while I thought he was going to say no, if you wish. Without another word, he went back to eating. Looking down at my plate, I did the same. The bacon was pretty good, crispy and crunchy, the pieces snapping nicely between my teeth. It had been a while since I've had a good breakfast like this. The only thing missing was a mug of coffee. Maybe I could help you fix. I haven't done it since I was a little kid, but he gave me a look, his eyes flicking up and down as if sizing me up. I could teach you. Even without the coffee, I could find myself perking up a little. I'm not all that good, but I want to help. You've been nice to me so far, and I want to help. I want to return the offer, I guess. There's no need. My face screwed up, brows furrowing. It doesn't sit right with me that you're just letting me stay here for free. You're taking care of me, feeding me. It's only fair that I do something, right? He grunted under his breath, snapping one of his own strips of bacon in half. You have been in an accident. You do not need to work to survive. My ears lowered, fork sliding around my plate, spreading the yellow of the egg yolk around. I understood what he was saying, but sitting around and doing nothing wasn't particularly appealing, not when he would be out there by himself. Even if I don't need to, it's something to do, right? There was a grunt of affirmation. The bear seemed to at least agree with my logic. I got up from the table, taking his empty plate with him before depositing it into the sink. I barely had time to do the same. Scooping the last of the bacon into my mouth before dropping my plate alongside his. He was already out the door by the time I managed to grab my jacket, hurriedly tugging it on. So we got to see a flashback between the MC and his boyfriend, I guess ex-boyfriend now. This is right when they were about to start college, and his boyfriend was there to reassure him that everything was going to be fine, that college wasn't going to be so bad. Because he got bullied in high school, and it turns out that his boyfriend was the one that was bullying him in high school. So apparently whatever happened, he ended up changing his attitude and started befriending the MC to the point where they became boyfriends. It's kind of like another game called Password, where the MC, Dave, he ends up being in love with a wolf named Tyson, someone who bullied him in high school. I mean, Tyson, the guy that bullied him, he had to change of heart and decided to befriend Dave, and I think Dave did something to prevent Tyson from being expelled from school. So I think Tyson did some things to Dave as a way of thanks for helping him stay in school, because he was bullying Dave and other students at the school. In fact, I think he sent one student to the hospital in an ambulance. So that conversation between the author here and his lion boyfriend kind of reminded me of Password. This ex-bully turned boyfriend. You've also got to see more of the kindness of Tarwak. And it seems like the author is very grateful towards Tarwak for letting him stay at his home when he didn't have to the point that the author insisted on helping Tarwak go out fishing, because he didn't want to stay there at his house all day doing nothing. He wanted to help out with him as thanks for him letting him into his home. So next time we'll see them go fishing, and they will also go to the other's car, his wet car, where he'll go to find some clothes, since he's complaining about him stinking a lot. So that's all I have to say for now. All the information for the game is in the description box below. Thank you all very much for watching. Goodbye.